So on today's episode, we're super excited to have Lindsey Williams from Shoals Technology. Lindsey's one of our newer board members at SIA, and we're super excited to have her come in and talk a little bit about what's next after the passage of HR1 in Washington.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of optimism that might take people by surprise, I guess, in the wake of this bill being passed, which certainly did not have a positive outcome for the industry. But Lindsey, I think, is among a number of folks who are just excited to continue to innovate and build. And she sort of framed this next immediate phase of the industry around, getting as lean and efficient as we can be so that we can maximize sort of the runway that we have on existing tax policy. And then, once those sort of credits are expired, pivoting to sort of creativity and innovation and finding new ways to lower costs and new sort of customer models, new deal models and all of that. And just to hear sort of a manufacturer sort of enter into that conversation with excitement and optimism about where this is going to go. They've been around a long time. Lindsey's been around in the industry for a number of years. No stranger to the ups and downs that we see in policy. But, despite some of these headwinds that we're seeing from HR1 and other places, there's still a lot of folks in the industry who are just excited to keep building.
Right. There is a misconception that the solar and storage industry is tanked as a result of this bill, and that's just not true. People should listen to this episode and hear how industry representatives are, to your point, optimistic about the future. We will continue to grow because markets, I've been saying this over and over again, there's demand for solar, markets will drive outcomes, and Shoals representative through Lindsey is really telling that story. Let's get into it. Ultimately, HR1 passed. It is now law. The president has signed it. And a lot of the industry is wondering where we go from here. So as a manufacturer, as such an important company in this space, is there anything you can tell us and our audience about the conversation that's going on within executives at Shoals about where we go from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, right? I think we all knew when this administration was elected that we were going to be in trouble. I think the industry did a really great job of sort of banding together and advocating and educating and trying to make our case economically to Republicans. I think we all agree that it's not the worst case scenario, but it's still not the best case scenario. So, we have to figure out a way to move forward with this new guidance. I think at Shoals, we're unique because electrical balance of systems isn't on the domestic content tables. We don't qualify for 45X tax credits. That being said, we understand that our customers do, right? In the industry, we are not in a silo here in the industry, right? So we're dependent on everybody else. I think what we need to do is continue to innovate and make ourselves more efficient so that it doesn't matter that we don't have these tax incentives for a long period of time, right? We have this small runway. We're going to take advantage of it, obviously. We're going to move forward as quickly as we can. We're going to react to future restrictions on us. I think that those will still come. And we're just going to have to play within those boundaries and figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because that's the position that we have been sharing. Ultimately, the market will drive outcomes. In the end, there will be seasons as this industry continues to grow. So having that logical point of view is really important to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time this has happened, right? I mean, if you've spent any amount of time in this industry, it's been it's called the solar coaster for a reason. It keeps coming and going and demand never ceases, right? So we continue to innovate at each of those steps and we'll just keep doing that.
Right. As any industry that goes from being small to mainstream can and will do.
Yes, for sure.
And you sort of mentioned that over the course of your career, you've seen a lot of different vantage points of that solar coaster and from the resi side and owner-operator and manufacturer. So what do you feel like are some of the lessons from some of those past, ups and downs that you can sort of take into the next stage here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry is resilient, right? What we just talked about. We're going to keep fighting the good fight or whatever you want to call it, right? We've weathered this fluctuating federal support. We've weathered state support. We've weathered community sentiment in the past, right? So we just have to keep advocating for it. I think right now we're in a really unique position where for the first time in decades, energy demand is slated to increase, right? I don't think we can get around that. You see AI, data centers, domestic manufacturing in and out of the clean energy industry, population growth, all of that is contributing to a need for more energy. And if you just break it down to brass tacks, solar is still the lowest levelized cost of electricity. But more importantly, it's the fastest to deploy. And you guys know this, right? We release guides, stats, data all the time. Sometimes that message, I think, doesn't land because people are they see solar, the administration sees solar as this negative, intermittent, unreliable power source when it's really the opposite of that, right? And it's solving the problem today for the future. And I think that that's getting overlooked in a lot of cases.
What takeaways do you have as far as sort of policy and advocacy are concerned from this, this past 6 months of like fighting that good fight and sort of underscoring all those economic arguments and the arguments about energy demand, like sort of running through the tape and doing the best we could to sort of preserve the tax credits? What do we think we learned from that experience that we can, take to maybe some state advocacy in the future or other work that we see on the horizon in the next few years?
I don't think facts matter, right? I don't think data matters.
Thank you for saying that. I agree.
Right? I mean, the facts are on our side. I think logic is on our side, and we're dealing with a difference in ideology. And this administration is trying to solve this massive problem that is in front of us. They recognize it. We recognize it. We can agree that there is a need for energy, right? We can all agree on that. That is a bipartisan thing that we all need to solve. Where we disagree is sort of this placing bets on the way we solve that problem, right? Instead of letting the market and the consumer decide, instead of letting the lowest cost of electricity or the fastest to deploy electricity win in the marketplace, we're unleveling. That's not a great word, but we're deviating from this playing field that we've been on for the past couple of years, which has really spurred a ton of growth and deployment of energy, right? So I think we have to go beyond data and facts. The data's there for jobs. It's there for energy production. 81% of the projects that came online over the past year were solar projects, right? None of that seems to matter. None of that lands. So how do you speak to their concerns, right? What is the administration's concern? The intermittency, the look and appeal of solar, right? If you compare that to a nuclear plant or a coal plant, is that really better, right? I mean, if you put those pictures side by side, I don't know. I don't know if I want that in my backyard, right? So I think we need to strike a chord with either that emotional side. We need to change a broader sentiment to make, the people who are really benefiting from the incentives today in all of these red districts, we need to have them speaking up on our behalf instead of just us pushing it down their throats and saying, we created all these jobs for you, be grateful, right?
Well, right. And in addition to, like what you just said about market indicators, coal plants are too expensive to run. Even if we force keeping them open during this administration, at some point, it's not affordable to keep those doors open, and those folks lose jobs. Then they're coming and knocking at our door saying, wait, we need to put up a clean energy facility, and that's in that particular location where that plant existed in the past. And that's happening in West Virginia. It's happening in states across the U.S. So I do think that this period is just a phase.
I hope you're right. And I'm actually pretty optimistic about it as well, because all of those things are on our side, right? The facts are on our side. The progress is on our side. We have to get to the individual, because I was just reading a story about I'm not going to get this totally right, but the electricians in Maine, their union was supportive of Trump for different reasons, right, outside of his energy policy. And now they're losing jobs, they're losing projects. The work has dried up because of the policies that Trump has put in place. So getting them to connect those two things is what we have to do. We have to connect their economic well-being individually with what's going on at a policy level. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's been our message all along.
Yes.
It's been all about jobs. It's been all about economic impact. But that we have a very powerful opponent with a very loud microphone. And in the end, I can appreciate a good competition. It's game.
Yes.
So in the end, how the people on the receiving end of that make those connections is not entirely it's not in our control.
Absolutely.
But we got to keep pushing that.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned this playing field, right? I mean, the solar industry gets a lot of flack for being subsidized, right? Feeling like we need this sort of like government incentive to be an industry and to stay afloat. The oil and gas industry has been subsidized for decades. And people don't realize that.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that enough. So do we need to like learn some things from how the oil and gas industry has advocated for itself?
Their game. Yeah.
Sure.
Right? I mean, maybe there's a lesson to be learned there.
Looking ahead on sort of, I guess putting sort of the federal policy stuff aside for a second and thinking about, we have some certainty on that level at least. It's not maybe the outcome we wanted, but we sort of know the rules of the road. What are some of the other things that you are thinking about as far as sort of challenges and barriers or other opportunities to create new demand or to drive business growth in the next, maybe 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So in the short term, I don't think things are going to slow down. I think they're going to speed up, right? Developers are going to try and get as much in over the next, 11 months now,
right,
as they can. So manufacturers like Shoals, the panel manufacturers, the trackers, we all have to figure out a way to be very efficient and fast with from initial quote all the way through to delivery, right? So internally, we have to make sure we are sharp, we are fast, we are efficient, we are effective for our customers. Outside of that, once that year is up, it's going to be about creativity, right? We have to figure out a way to be leaner, to be more cost effective. And, we say this, but cost on these projects has come down so dramatically, right? And I still go back to the fact that with or without incentive, solar is still the cheapest form of electricity to install and to deliver. So it's making sure that message is clear, right, when you're quoting projects for developers, but then also taking a look at ourselves and saying, where can we get better, faster, more innovative so that it doesn't matter if we have government subsidies in the future, right? We still beat oil and gas every time.
I mean, that's sort of, I guess, the right note to end on. And you've got sort of this like optimistic vision for where you think Shoals can go and where the industry can go. But, I sometimes, having been through the solar coaster too, think about all the, we're still a growing industry. There's a lot of people coming into this space for the first time, whether it's like young folks starting their careers or people coming from other industries, and like whether they're sort of looking on the sidelines after this passage of this bill and saying, well, maybe I should rethink where I'm choosing to start my career or move my career. What is your message to people who might be either like waiting to start a business or waiting to think about where their career goes? Like, does this still feel like, and I think I know the answer to this question, does this still feel like an industry to sort of invest in, whether it's, personally or sort of capital wise?
Without a doubt. I mean, even going through all those ups and downs, I think this industry is unique in the fact that you really have a chance to make a way bigger impact than yourself personally, right? We have the ability to adapt, to be resilient, to change. I think that's really exciting. Not everybody does, right? Some people want to go into work, know what they're going to do, and leave.
Yeah.
But if you want like a changing environment, changing challenges, things that make you get out of bed and want to solve for, it's still a great industry to be involved in. And maybe I'm being too optimistic. Generally, I err on the side of optimism, but I don't think this industry is going anywhere. I think we're going to go through a couple of years where we have to be, like fighting a little bit more than we had been over the last few years. But we're not going anywhere. And there's still jobs. There's still people hiring. Manufacturing's still going to have to happen. Projects are still going to have to be installed, right? Construction. We're short on electricians. Become an electrician, right?
Yeah.
You can work in the solar industry. You can work with data centers. I mean, the opportunity is endless.
Yeah.
So I think now's a great time, right? Great time.
Yeah.
Jump in, get your feet wet, do it, be resilient.
Enough said.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. And we're looking forward to seeing where the next phase of the industry is. But I think you're right. We're not slowing down anytime soon. So
no way.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.